folks who stayed with us tonight. I know it's been a long evening, but we also know that time matters because there's a public hearing tomorrow night here in Albuquerque at the Crown Plaza Hotel and University from 6 to 9. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is taking public comment on this very proposed plan that we're considering tonight, and so we know timeliness matters. Mr. President, I'll move M1.
We have a motion and a second to move M1.
Thank you. And Mr. President, just very briefly, I'll explain it without reading through. This resolution relates to a proposal currently being considered before the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that would allow the company Holtec to transport or to store up to 100,000 metric tons of high-level nuclear waste in New Mexico. Although the transportation plans have not yet been finalized, there are a number of plans that have been considered or publicly speculated that would require the transportation of this nuclear waste on public railways that would cross the city of Albuquerque. Obviously, I don't have to tell anybody here what happens if something bad goes wrong. And we've all seen trains crash on the roadway. So we would encourage your support, but not before our public speakers get a chance to weigh in.
I will call the first 5 names. If you're here, please come forward and be prepared to speak. We have seating available for you. Peter Clark, Sam Pruitt, Rosemary Blanchard, Janet Greenwald, and Carol Burrell.
Sam there.
Okay.
Go ahead and state your name for the record.
My name is Sam Pruitt. I live in District 6, and I attend Monte Vista Elementary, in which I am a 5th grader, about to be 6. The plan to ship nuclear waste through southern New Mexico is a very bad idea and will be dangerous to every community it travels through. Kids like us need to be protected by our government, not put in danger. If the national government won't protect us, it's up to the city council to do so, to do what they can to protect their growing children who live in Albuquerque from being exposed to this dangerous nuclear waste. Please approve this memorial and see what you can do to see that no radioactive waste gets shipped through our city. Thank you all for letting me speak.
Thank you, Sam. Councilman Davis.
Sam, very briefly, could I bother you one more time?
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us. It's been a long night, and I want to point out that this is, to my knowledge, at least your 3rd time being here.
This is indeed my 3rd time.
We are very lucky to have you, particularly in Southeast Albuquerque. Your school's very lucky to have you. Thanks for extending your bedtime a little bit tonight to hang out with us. It don't matter. If we pass this tonight, are you going to the meeting tomorrow to tell them what happened? Somebody will with you. Somebody will help us with that.
I'm not 100% sure.
We'll work that out. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Councilor Davis.
Thanks, Sam. Great job. Rosemary Blanchard.
Hello, and thank you. Just to get a little bit of, okay. Just to get a little bit of radiated glory, I'm with Sam. In any case, my name is Rosemary Blanchard. I'm chair of the Albuquerque chapter of the United Nations Association USA, and I want to thank Councilor Davis for introducing this resolution, and all of you councilors for giving it serious consideration this evening, even at this late hour. Many years ago, I worked as a policy analyst for the Division of Diné Education in the Navajo Nation and chaired the Social Science Department at UNM Gallup shortly thereafter. And I reference those positions because during my time working for the Navajo Nation and teaching at UNM Gallup, I kept encountering the effects of the indifference of the nuclear industry and federal government agencies responsible for regulating them and for protecting the health of civilians. In 1987, I sat in a meeting where an Indian Health Service official explained he had no legal obligation to inform a public school district in Sanders that the water their kids were using in the school was contaminated with radioactive waste. He had to take care of housing. He was digging artesian wells because of the radioactivity. He refused to tell the school district. We leaked it. But I bring this up because now the radioactive activity in Sanders is being raised like it was a new issue. I learned of it in 1987 and nothing has been done. We're a city. If we cannot count, I have more examples in my written testimony, but the fact is, if we cannot count on our federal government to protect us, then we must count on you. And my experience is we cannot, where it comes to the nuclear industry, count on our federal government to protect us. And so I encourage you to use your authority as our city council to preserve, protect, and promote human rights and human dignity, and promote and encourage the recognition and exercise of human responsibility here in Albuquerque by approving M18-1 and doing all you can to protect us from the shipment of any nuclear waste through our city. It's up to you. Obi-Wan Kenobi, we have no one else.
Thank you. Janet Greenwald?
Chairman and Council, thank you so much for considering Memorial One, and thanks to Councilor Davis for introducing it. This plan to ship nuclear fuel rods all around the United States is very ill-conceived. They'll end up in one parking lot. The idea is to bury them shallowly, so that they're only a couple of feet under the ground. The kind of burial they're going to do could be done anywhere. Any nuclear power plant has a safe place, geologically, I believe, to bury these wastes within 100 miles of the plant. So the first misconception, I think, is that it's great to have all the nuclear fuel rods in the whole nation in one place. I think you're just kind of asking for an accident in that case. And the second ill-conceived notion is that it's okay to ship these nuclear fuel rods, which have no protection from terrorists, which are too heavy to be carried on our underfunded rail system, all the way across the United States and endangering millions of people. I want to thank you for being, I guess, the last ditch, a resource to oppose this idea. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Carol Merrill, followed by Stephen Fergensky, followed by Robin Sindel, followed by Cider Marley. Welcome.
Thank you, President Sanchez and council members. And thank you for considering this memorial. It gives me a measure of hope. My name is Carol Merrill, a retired librarian and teacher from North Valley, Albuquerque, published author. I've been a member of CARD, Citizens for Alternatives to Radioactive Dumping, for 30 years. Thank you for seriously considering this memorial. For my concerns, there is no way to justify hauling high-level nuclear waste across thousands of miles of aging train tracks, endangering countless communities such as ours. The canisters that Holtec is trying to get the government to pay for are defective. For one, they are not able to withstand the high temperatures of southern New Mexico. An engineer who studied Holtec specifications for their proposed canisters told me this. Is this correct? The temperature around southern New Mexico sometimes reaches 120 degrees, and their canisters are not effective at that temperature. The canisters will be 12 inches up out of the ground, exposed to desert heat. Perhaps this project was not well planned. For another, it was reported by San Diego Union Tribune Thursday, May 10th, 2018, that there was a loose bolt inside one of Holtec's canisters designed to store spent radioactive fuel at the waterfront site of San Onofre nuclear power plant, which Holtec worked for 10 days. This is recent. Looks like there are some serious problems with Holtec's engineering. Are these canisters they are threatening to send across the country through heavily populated areas? The trust is broken with that one loose bolt. For our energy concerns in this great nation, It's time to employ our natural genius to find more elegant, safe generators using wind, sun, water, tide, solar, geothermal for starters. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Kurczynski.
President Sanchez, members of the City Council. My name is Stephen Kurczynski, with the Green Party U.S. Green Party strongly opposes any shipment of high-level nuclear waste across the United States. We propose Nevada Waste Repository up the mountain or any other centralized facility. The Green Party believes that these proposals are part of a move to refire fast-track commercial nuclear industry, providing a means for safe disposal. We deny that there's such a thing as safe disposal of nuclear waste. We propose making spent nuclear fuel and other high-level waste safer by vitrification at the site where it's produced or stored. I asked them, should Albuquerque help or allow for the transport of Holtec's cast in this destructive industry? What is the issue of transport? Well, there's over 2,000 high-level nuclear waste thin wall storage containers that are half-inch thick. They can't be inspected inside or out. They cannot be repaired or maintained. They can't be monitored to prevent radiation leaks. The thin wall canister can crack and leak in short term from various environmental and manufacturing conditions. And there is no plan in place to deal with this. This is from the NRC's own reports in 2014. The Kronenberg nuclear plant in South Africa had a comparable canister leak in only 17 years. The cracks were deeper than the thicknesses of most U.S. thin wall canisters at 0.16 of an inch versus 0.50 of an inch. So some of these casts down here with the DOE in New Mexico, there's no plans to prevent leaks in storage and transport, and no plan if it does leak. There are no pools in New Mexico. Transport infrastructure problems are not addressed. New Mexico, Texas, and others are being deceived about canister safety. There's inadequate aging management plan, and there's unnecessary accident risks in transport and new storage. There'll be legal challenges on this. Urge a do pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin Seidel.
Good evening, President Sanchez and council members. Thanks again to Pat Davis for introducing this memorial and to you all for considering it, seriously considering it. I just want to say that even if we have incident-free transport through New Mexico, through Albuquerque, even in routine transport, the NRC regulations allow for up to 10 millirem per hour of gamma radiation to be emitted. And that means that if you are near the railroad tracks, you can get between 1 to 2 chest x-rays or up to 40 chest x-rays, depending on if these transport trains are paused, which happens frequently in Albuquerque rail yards, paused for any given length of time. I was just set up at the rail yards market on Sunday and noticed that a number of trains paused for quite some time in the rail yards there, which meant that if any of those trains were carrying these radioactive canisters, we were all exposed, all of us there. And the economic drivers of our community really need that kind of development, and I would hate to see it hurt in any way due to these transports. So again, it's late. I know you want to get on with it. Thank you so much for even considering this, and I do hope that you will pass it, and I hope to see some of you at the NRC hearings tomorrow to speak out in protection of our city and the people of New Mexico. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Sider Marlin, followed by Lucille Cordova, followed by Marla Painter, followed by Dick Harrison. Welcome.
Hi, I think it's Sister Marlene.
Sister Marlene, okay. Sister Marlene, I apologize.
But that's okay, I'm going to be silent.
Go proceed, Sister.
I'm Sister Marlene, and I'm a Sister of Mercy. And I'm speaking in favor of this memorial. It really is our ethical duty to look at this whole national issue. And here we have a slice of what we can do. On April 30th, of this year, 117 Sisters of Mercy met from the Northeast. We were from Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Albany, New York. And we all, those that were there, signed a petition that I gave and introduced to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And we wrote against moving the high-level spent rods of all U.S. nuclear power plants. I come from Vermont. We have them at Vermont Yankee. And I assure you, Vermont would love to be a nice, clean state and send all our nuclear waste to New Mexico. However, to send all this waste on rails for over 20 years is not just. We believe it is safer on the long haul to store the waste on site, except for those places where it is extremely dangerous, and to move them within 100 miles to a safe place. Thank you.
Sister Marlene, thank you. Next speaker is Lucille Cordova, followed by Marla Painter, followed by Dick Harrison, and the last speaker will be Melissa Stoll.
I think Lucille left.
Okay.
You'll notice only the grandparents are around. We're the only ones that can stay up this late.
Original act.
I'm Marla Painter. Thank you, President Sanchez and members of the council for entertaining this memorial. It is very important. I lived in Nevada for 23 years, first part of my life, and I worked on the Yucca Mountain, against the Yucca Mountain proposal for 15 of those years. I've now lived in New Mexico for 21 years, and it seems to have chased me here, something about karma. I worked for various nonprofit organizations in Nevada that were focused on this, and I also worked for the State of Nevada Nuclear Projects Office. And I suggest you might want to get in touch with them. They're still working on it because Yucca Mountain still is there as a possibility. They have all of these years of knowledge about all of this, and I think it would, if you need to do more research, I think that would be a good place to go. You know, Mayor Goodman of Las Vegas, Nevada did a very brave thing in the middle of this fight. He banned nuclear waste coming through Las Vegas, Nevada on the rails. He did that for obvious public relations reasons, but he also did it because he cared about the health of the people of Las Vegas. We're talking about waste that could sit in casts on concrete above ground storage facilities on site in the same exact way they would sit in southern New Mexico for the next God knows how many years. It doesn't need to be moved. The only reason they want to move it is so they can generate more nuclear power plants and create more waste. So for us to be put in danger of having these shipments go through Albuquerque for God knows how many years, I think it's more than 20 years, day and night, never knowing when it's coming through, so that the profits of the nuclear industry can continue, is a true disservice to our city. And I live 3.5 short rural blocks from the railroads, and I hope that you will consider the health and safety of us all.
Thank you. Dick Harrison? And the last speaker on this agenda item is going to be Melissa Stoll. Welcome, Mr. Harrison.
Yes, my name is Dick Harrison. I'm a retired Presbyterian minister. And I want to thank you for considering this memorial. A priest and a minister found themselves by the side of a rural road, and they were holding a sign. It said, "The end is at hand." A young fellow came up with his car and stopped and rolled the window down, and then he angrily said, "You idiots," and he drove away as fast as he could and around the curve and out of sight. And then they heard the screeching of the brake and a big splash. And the priest turned to the minister and said, "Do you think we should get a different sign that says the bridge is out?" Well, I think when it comes to the nuclear arms race, whether past or present, the bridge is out. In a way, in this memorial, you will be making a decision. Will New Mexico continue to become the nation's dump for the storage of toxic waste materials whose poison will still be able to cause suffering and death 7 generations from now? Why do we have this problem? It's because our national leaders, in order to win a race, did not think about what would happen to the people. That's why the late John Glenn, Republican senator from Ohio, once said, "What good is it to protect our nation with nuclear weapons if we poison our people in the process?"
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. We are back on the bill. Are there any questions? Then let's go to Councilor Davis to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll keep it short because I think I've been outspoken by the folks who appeared. From the youngest to the oldest, I think we see the challenge of doing this and sort of the, I don't even know why somebody would start this process, but I think it's important that we do this tonight and urge your support so that they can transmit that message tomorrow to the NRC as they're considering this proposal. And thank you for everyone, as Mr. Painter said, some of the hardcores who have been doing this a long time and know what it's like to sit up late and get organized and get things done, and we appreciate it for waiting out the city tonight, and we appreciate your organizing and working on this. It's important for the rest of the folks who couldn't be here, so thank you and urge your support.
Before we vote, let's go ahead and go to Councilor Gibson and then Councilor Borrego.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, I greatly respect everybody here tonight to speak to this memorial and your positions and your thoughts on this. I know that they're carefully considered, and I do respect them. I have a little bit different perspective on this, although I think that we do probably share a lot of the same things. So I'm going to be doing something I've never done before. I'm going to be abstaining on this. I spent many years working at Sandia Labs, was a prototype machinist, and I helped build the first true packs. Those are the containers that you see traveling down the highway with radioactive materials. And they were tested every way you could possibly test those things. Now, I don't know, I've been retired for a long time now, about 10 years now. I don't know that those are the same ones that are used in the railways. But I do not think that they put something that's only 50 thousandths across, 50 thousandths wall. I do not believe that part. But I do respect what you're saying, and I'm glad that you're here saying this. I just can't support you on this one. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Borrego, and then we'll go to Councilor Jones.
Well, I grew up in New Mexico. I grew up in Espanola, which is only about 25 miles from Los Alamos. And this is not too many years ago, maybe longer than I care to admit. I remember when nuclear waste was being considered for New Mexico, and specifically in the southern part of New Mexico. And my hometown, Santa Fe, Espanola, was going to be one of the main routes to the southern part of the state. And I remember, families saying, no, we're not supportive of that. And, we talked with our legislators, and I was much younger then. And, it was pretty much we were told that these containers that would be shipped down south were safe, and the nuclear waste would be stored professionally. It'd be underground, it'd be in these airtight containers that would never leak. And consequently, a few years ago, you know, you hear about these containers leaking. And, you know, this is in my great state of New Mexico, which I love dearly. And I commend you, Councilor Davis, for creating this memorial. I will not be supporting, I will be supporting this memorial. Because of the story that I just told. I grew up in this state since I was a child. I was born and raised here. I intend to die here. I don't want to die sooner than I have to. So I support you on this. Thank you.
Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I'm going to take a little different look at this, and I certainly appreciate what you're all saying, and I appreciate how your feelings, and they are feelings. But I don't believe, and it's just this is the practical side of it, I don't believe that the city has the right to tell a rail company or the railroad what they can transport on their tracks. And I'd like to see if the city attorney would like to weigh in on this. I don't think it comes within our purview.
President Sanchez, Councilor Jones, I would need to spend a little more time analyzing it, but my initial inclination is that the federal government mandates what is and is not transported, or what may or may not be transported. My understanding is also that the state of New Mexico is a participant in the Western Interstate Nuclear Compact. As far as the practical effect of the memorial, I don't know that it, I think it expresses the will of the council or the desire. I don't know that it has an enforceable effect, but I'm happy to look into all of these issues and report back to you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. And what you're saying is a memorial, which I think we all know here is simply expressing the feelings of the majority of the council who votes for it. But it has no legal ability to change anything, nor does it represent all of the people of the city of Albuquerque.
President Sanchez, Councilor Jones, I think that is correct.
And just as a matter of what I think I do as an elected official, it's very difficult for me to vote for anything like that, because I certainly don't know that it represents the majority of the people, and I don't believe it is something that's going to cause anything to change that's happening. But I appreciate you. I appreciate your passion, but I can't support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jones and Councilor Davis. You've already closed. We will go to a vote. All those in favor of M1, raise your hand and say yes. Yes?
Yes.
Those opposed?
No.
No. That carries on a 4-3 vote
Absent.
and 1 abstention. All those in favor, raise your hand and say yes. That's 4. Those opposed? That's 3. Carried and 1 abstention. So passed on a 4-3 vote. Okay, you've got one more item on the agenda, and that is going to be item GR-37.